On this week's Waypoint, Gragas is getting the Cassidin treatment, Team Builder has finally arrived, and the Lee Sin changes that we've been spending 2 weeks talking about have been reverted. What's up, guys, and welcome to Waypoint, your weekly League of Legends recap for March 26, 2014. I'm your host, Mike Schaffnet. Now, Gragas fans, you guys might want to be sitting down for this first news story. You see, originally, Gragas was designed to be an AP brawler that was meant to get into the faces of his enemies and, well, hit them in the face repeatedly. Hence why he has body slam and the attack damage on his passive. But over time, we've all come to know Gragas as actually an AP burster poke champion that was capable of two-shotting squishies. Well, I think you guys can see where I'm going with this one, because it appears that Riot is trying to bring Gragas back to his tankier bruiser roots. Now, personally though, I think that there's something else that's going on here. These changes are announced, and just a few days later, the most famous Gragas player in the LCS, Scarra, retires. Coincidence? I think not. However, best of luck, Scarra, in anything that you decide to do, even if it's being a mariachi. Back to the changes. The damage on his barrel is being reduced and now slows movement speed instead of attack speed. However, it'll deal more damage and slow for more the longer the barrel remains on the field. Now, obviously, most players aren't going to be standing in the barrel, but this does reward you for using your ult to knock someone into a sitting barrel. Needless to say, though, that's going to be incredibly hard to pull off consistently. Drunken Rage will now have a much lower cooldown and duration, but it'll grant a one-time hit bonus instead of AD. What's really nice is that you'll be able to cast it while moving now, but it no longer restores your mana. Now, I like this change because, as Riot said, it was kind of a dull spell before, but honestly, I still think that it's quite dull, and I wouldn't mind seeing Drunken Rage replaced or changed completely. Body Slam now stuns and slightly knocks back enemies instead of slowing them, which I absolutely love. I would always rather have a stun than a slow, and knockbacks aren't affected by tenacity, which is huge. On top of his ult, this really will give Gragas a significant amount of utility here. However, I do actually question the synergy of knocking someone towards you with your ult and then knocking them away from you with your body slam. Finally, his ult will deal less damage, which is certainly understandable, as it's one of the highest hitting abilities in the game and its area of effect. Overall, I'm not really sure how I feel about all of these changes. On one hand, Gragas being a fairly tanky mage with an escape and huge long-range burst potential is a potent combination. But on the other hand, was he really that problematic to begin with? And will players just drop him completely if these changes even go through? We'll keep an eye out on the PBE and be sure to update you if anything changes. Next up, the Team Builder queue is back, and it looks like it's here to stay. Separate to existing queues and unavailable for ranked play, this new queue should be a great way for avoiding the absolute worst part of League of Legends, which has to be Insta-Lock Teemo Tuesdays. With Team Builder, you'll be able to queue up with a specific champion for a specific lane and a specific role in mind. If you want to play AP Ezreal, no problem. You just need to find the right captain to pick you up. Personally, I kind of wish this was the default mode across the entire game, including ranked play, and hopefully if the feature is utilized enough, we'll actually see it implemented as such. Would you guys like to see that in the future? Well, let me know in the comments below if you agree. Next up, Pantheon fans, well, you guys might want to take a seat as well. He's seen a rise in popularity in the jungle since the start of Season 4, and well, now it looks like he's getting the Nocturne treatment. Thanks to Renekton over on Reddit for posting these pictures of his new ultimate's range. This screenshot here is what his ultimate's range will be at level 6. Grand Skyfall, more like not so Grand Skyfall, am I right? Yeah? Alright, well here's a comparison to Zach's E at max rank. Now before you guys freak out here though, the range will scale back up to its current at max rank. It just means less global pressure early on. What this will do is it should give some counterplay options to early ganking with some clever warding. However, not much is going to stop a Pantheon from coming in and ulting from the lane, so I think that he still has his place on the Rift. Also keep in mind that this change is only on the PBE and may actually never see the light of day. Alright, so you know how we've spent the last couple weeks talking about all these changes that are coming to Lee Sin, and also how the community collectively agreed on something for once, and that was hating all of the proposed changes. Well, forget everything that we've told you, at least for now, because the changes are almost entirely scrapped for the next patch. The only thing that's going to be changing in the immediate future is his shield on W, which means that unless you use it to jump to a champion, it's going to have a longer cooldown. That should tone down Lee's insane ward-hopping escape potential, but still allow him to make big play engages. The rest of the changes may or may not go forward in a future patch, but it's safe to say that I think Riot got our message. And finally, Riot is implementing some of the rune changes that they talked about in the preseason. The almost universally popular armor seals are being hit the hardest, while the base armor of all champions is being buffed slightly to compensate. Now, the amount of armor that everyone had wasn't really a problem, but the problem was that the armor seals were really the only choice for yellow runes. Scaling armor, health, scaling health, and health regen are all seeing buffs to try and offer more choices in that category. Now, I'm not convinced that everyone won't just continue to use armor, but we'll see here. Health regen may become more popular in the top lane after all of the Doran Shield nerfs and defense tree changes. Red marks went untouched, but blue glyphs are seeing some changes as well. Scaling cooldown reduction, scaling magic resistance, mana regeneration, and scaling mana regeneration are all being buffed. Again, Riot just wants more choice in the matter. Right now, flat magic resistance is just the go-to, or maybe scaling ability power on some mages. Junglers will appreciate the scaling magic resistance buff especially, and mana regeneration may help sustain heavy supports. And finally, quintessences are seeing a lot of changes. Cooldown reduction, scaling cooldown reduction, and attack speed are all seeing buffs, and I could definitely see a lot of use for either of those cooldown quints. It's not always an easy stat to itemize for either, especially in the mid lane if you don't want to buy a Grail. Lifesteal quints are being nerfed though, which is a huge deal for AD carries that will instantly make healing supports like Soraka and Sona probably more relevant. Alright, now I know that we're all League of Legends fans here, but come on, sometimes the servers go down, or rather sometimes the servers are actually up. Sometimes you're just sick and tired of AFK players that are ruining your promotional matches, and sometimes you're just absolutely sick of Teemo. It's during those times that I like to play MMOs, and there just so happens to be a big one that's on the way. Some of you guys might have heard of a little series called Elder Scrolls. You know, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim maybe? Is it ringing any bells? Yeah, I thought so. Well, we here at LOL Nation TV would love to hook you guys up with a great pre-order deal that we've got going on right now. This offer is valid for both standard and imperial editions of the game, and entirely depends on how much you guys like shiny white horses. Either edition will give you a 3 days head start, 30 days of game time, as well as the Explorers Pack DLC, which will let you play any race for any faction. If you're interested and ready to jump back into the Elder Scrolls world, well then head on over to offergb.com/ESO to pre-order the game. You'll find a link in the description below, and using that link is a great way to help support this channel. Let's talk about some LCS plays from Week 9, shall we? We have a big play from the Thresh Prince himself, Edward, in a match against Gambit Gaming. Genja and Edward in the bottom lane are forced to retreat to their turret as a surprise 3v2 renders Edward low. Good guy Genja blocks the ranged attacks and skill shots, protecting Edward. But see, it's when Lee Sin lands a resonating strike on Genja that Edward instantly turns around, lands a death sentence to keep Lee Sin in turret range, and somehow dodges Ezreal's Mystic shot, which just barely keeps him alive. Finally, Edward hits a backwards flay to ensure that Lee Sin takes at least one more turret shot to the back in order to secure himself the kill. Them Thresh mechanics. Over in the North American LCS, we've got a play from Team Solo Mid versus Dignitas. Dignitas was looking for a dragon, and they thought that they could take it by pulling the dragon out of the pit while keeping their distance from TSM. X Special on Leona lands an incredible 4-man solar flare as Wild Turtle on Sivir speeds up the whole team, letting them collapse onto Dignitas. TSM tears apart the surprise team, scoring first blood, the ace, and the dragon. Talk about a snowball. Our last play of the week comes from the game between Team Coast and Counter Logic Gaming. Coast attempts to take Baron while 4 members of CLG are around, which leads into a team fight. It looked as though CLG would win the fight overall, but Shifter on Ziggs had other ideas. Seeing that only Sivir and Elise are around after the kill on Renekton happened, Shifter flashes right into Sivir's face and proceeds to burst her down while acting as the front line for a few seconds as the rest of the surviving members of Coast deal the damage. Due to good positioning by Coast, they were able to deal tons of damage to the re-engaging CLG team, and Shifter with his Lichbane procs are able to pick up a quadra kill. That does it for this week's episode of Waypoint. Be sure to check back every week on Thursday for the latest League of Legends news. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and comment below as it helps spread our audience. And if you guys want to see more League of Legends content, recaps, and updates, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, LOLNation TV. I'm Mike Shaffnet. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mike Shaffnet. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next Waypoint.
Game Breaker TV.